Hello, everyone. This is Santosh Christudas of the Toronto Business Journal. Today, I'm joined by Leano L. of Subtle Infinity, who has been making YouTube videos since 2012, a 7-year Army veteran, an artist who focuses content on critical thinking outside the mainstream thought process, and uses his experience in the military to analyze society's present time events, history, and the future. Thank you so much for joining us today. And how is everything going on your side?
Very well. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
No problem. So you go by Subtle Infinity. That's your YouTube channel. And what are the topics that you normally cover on your channel?
Well, they've evolved over the years. My YouTube channel first started off with just kind of sharing my perspective and experiences in growing up in Oakland, California, and then the hardships of that, and then into the military, and then coming back home after the military. But once I started to get in the circles of the online communities and research, I started to go into transhumanism, researching CERN, researching the systematic racism, researching flat Earth, or just the non-heliocentric model of Earth, and researching the historical events, kind of like the education system wants you to think a certain way. Well, there's the ways that you're not supposed to think, and that's the information that I would like to research. And one of the biggest catalysts to researching a lot of this information was the sort of false flag events that have been going on since when I went into the military at 17 years old. I was in the beginnings of 9/11 when that happened in 2001. And so once I started researching that, that's what kind of introduced me to false flag events and some of the technology that's behind that and some of the reasonings that's behind that. So it's basically kind of a broad spectrum approach to the various mind controls that we are subjected to on a universal scale.
Wow, you cover basically almost everything that like it's all outside the mainstream media, essentially, right? Like a lot of the stuff that the mainstream media and the mainstream so-called science, who's supposed to be unbiased, but clearly there's some bias going on where they're only like it seems almost like the mainstream and the science have kind of merged in a weird way. Like the media supports the science and the science supports the media. It's like it's nothing like no new information is ever coming out.
Exactly? Yeah, it's just another form of like kind of reverse engineering the ways we're supposed to think,
right? And
then kind of breaking that down and seeing, well, they're telling us to think this way. Why should we think this way? And why shouldn't we think the other way? And then connecting the dots after you do that.
Okay. Well, let's start with transhumanism. So what do you think is actually going on with the transhumanism? Does it have anything to do with this sudden promotion of the transgender going on? Or is it like something that are people like made into like little robotoids? Is like as part of the whole, there's a thing with the chip being implanted into people as well, right? So what are your thoughts on that? Is it something that's is it all connected, or is there like separate different layers to it?
So how I approach transhumanism is to go to the origins of why these systems exist. So when you have the institution of mainstream science, you're really looking at the control of not only the body, but you're controlling the mind. And historically, to control the masses, they've had to control the mind. So you go into the religious systems that were designed to create a dumbed down society so that the higher classes could rule over and steal land and conquer land, conquer people, enslave people, so on and so forth. Before that, you had the kings and the queens who are claiming to talk to God, to claiming
Hmm.
to be manifestations of God. Then you have the religions that were saying they had the books of God, they're speaking for God. And all of these are control measures. The control measures of the system today are mainstream science.
Yes.
And the God of mainstream science of today is so-called intellect. It's this mainstream intellect, and the way they make you believe into this godly nature of who and what they are
Right.
is to create these grandiose sort of events like going to the moon or
Yeah.
discovering the origin of the Big Bang, that
Yeah.
we have the information of who and what we are because we've discovered these tiny, we've crashed, protons together and created black holes. We've, in the CERN program, we've done all of these things. We've discovered stars in universe, what stars are made of, what planets are made of, what we've done all of these things. So basically, instead of what they were used to doing, which was worshiping God, now the community, the individuals have phased out God in many different ways, which is why science is connected to the atheism program and have
Yes.
now assumed the position of God. So now they have a direct connection to people believing that they are God. And the next step to making people believe into the next mind and body control programs is to kind of evolve beyond God through technology. And when they accept technology into their bodies, then they can trick themselves into believing that they are like God when they have accessibility like the internet, no longer just at the hand of their smartphones. This is the
Hmm.
smart agenda, because everything that you can see the smart agenda around there.
Oh
That
yeah.
is an introduction into transhumanism. You're not really smart. You're not a smart human yet. This is the next thing. You have a smartphone, but you'll become a smart human when you don't need the external hard drive of a smartphone. So you need to
Ah.
get the software and the hard drive and the hardware of this technology into your body.
Yeah.
And once you do that, this is the same reason why they have technology that starts off on a really low budget, kind of like a 56K modem connection, and then they slowly make you salivate into the
Oh.
needing of a higher speed connection. And then
Wow.
once they get you to a space of needing it so much, then they got you hooked, and then you'll continue to want, like Pavlov's dog, you'll continue to want the next technology. And once you get, and they're working towards a technology that's going to control you on a physical level, a psychological level, and a spiritual level, tapping into a sense of transitioning dimensions. So it's
Wow.
kind of like creating a false, and this goes into the simulation theory,
Yeah.
hacking into the human consciousness, hacking into the human server, and seeing what they can do. Because basically, a lot of these systems are really just shooting from the hip. They don't know what's going on. They're kind of uh, like they do with all these other systems, really just kind of create an experiment, and then whatever happens in those experiments, they say, well, we tried to do this and this is what happened, but they didn't really try to do that. They just kind of stumbled upon it, and then they're acting like they really did, and then they can just
Oh.
move into the next experiment from there, kind of just like kids bumbling through a little science project. So transhumanism is actually the word for that entire experience, from really just accepting technology, modern technology, into your body, into your experience, and then they can move forward.
I wholeheartedly agree. Like right now, even now, I have my smartphone with me, and sometimes, and you're right. Like sometimes I just want to go for a walk, but like subconsciously, I just reach for my phone. Like it's almost like a part of my body right now, believe it or not. So this is like now, as you mentioned, this has become almost part of us. When just like maybe 10 years ago, I mean, who had cell phones really or smartphones really? Very few people. So now it's become so normalized. It's almost part of your body, or part of everybody's. It's everybody in everybody's hands, no matter where you go. You see people staring at their smartphones. So it's definitely, so the next level is going to be the, I guess, the chip insertion, and maybe that's going to be normal. Right now, that's looking like it's a little bit sci-fi, but maybe, who knows, 10 years from now, maybe that'll be become the new normal, like the smartphone did. So that's a scary thought for sure.
Yeah, well, even before that, the
Yeah.
new normal, as within all these experiments that they have been doing, like the Tuskegee experiments and so on and so forth, a big part of these agendas and these experiments is to depopulate the population.
Okay.
Because and you can go into a lot of the modern things that are happening now with the pharmaceutical industry. Depopulation is a big part of this, because if you have too many people, then you have too many brains that are going to be able to think and challenge the system.
Right.
So part of that experience is to play the oops card, like they always do. Oops, we thought we were doing a good thing by inserting this into your body, and oops, thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of people died. So, since you have no other people to trust and follow into the future, just keep following our oops program, and we'll oops our way into something better, constantly selling you something better in the future.
They never accept their faults at all. They're like, oops, it was all in the name of good. We're trying to do the best we can. And you're absolutely right. Because as you said before, religion, science has become the new religion, like for the masses, right? Like whatever is shown on TV, like for example, the NASA moon landings, people still believe, like even though it's been over 50 years or something since we sent humans to the moon, people still believe. The NASA, Don Petit, one of the NASA astronauts said, oh, he'd go to the moon in a nanosecond, but unfortunately they lost the technology. And people just eat it up. They don't like question anything. It's like, it's the same as like, for example, the Pope 200 or 300 years ago, whatever the Pope said, everybody just believed it, right? Like the Christian world, they become the God. So the new gods have become the scientists of the world, and whatever they say is correct. And if you try to talk to anybody about it, they immediately either assume you're crazy or you're misinformed, you're uneducated. And I just it really hurts, especially when they say, oh, you need more education, or where did you get your schooling from? It's like, it boggles the mind, because we all went through the same school, right? We all went, like when I was growing up, we all like were told, like, these people went to the moon, and there's still like satellites in space that are magically floating around, and like never colliding, and perfectly, like you never really think about these things. And then you ask a simple question like, how come I've never really seen a video footage of one of these satellites in space? Like, it's how come there are like bubbles in these so-called space footages they show us of the astronauts fixing something, and then they say, and they always have an excuse for it. They always say, oh, it's that's because that was underwater training or something, right? And then the worst is the recent Mars rover. They send one terrible photo. Like, I could get a better photo with my my phone, and these people are spending millions of dollars to get that one photo, so-called photo of Mars. And then somebody found, the actual Mars rover on Devon Island, Canada, and they just said, oh, that's because that was just a training center. So they always have this weird excuse, and people just eat it up, and they say, oh, yeah, that was just a training center. So they really are sending robots to Mars or all that stuff, So definitely, I'm really glad that you brought that up, that science has become the new religion. That
And the way they sell science is based upon what the masses, the conscious masses, will accept. So and that's why I said they put a lot of these experiments out there to see where people are. Movies are put out there to see where people are. So like back in the day, you had, I think it was the movie The War of the Worlds that came out.
Yeah.
And early on, and people were freaking out because they thought this was really happening. They thought aliens were invading, and there was this whole thing that was going on. And that's how they can like sell you belief systems by manipulating your psyche, your consciousness to think certain certain ways and sell these programs into you through fear. So
Right.
they can fear you into a belief system, they can trick you into belief system, they can guilt and shame you into belief systems. And this is why a lot of the narcissistic programming, the narcissistic um, styles of manipulation are used on the masses
Yeah.
to control people on a grand scale. So
Yeah.
the if you look at the research of how narcissism, like extreme overt and covert narcissists control their victims, it's a mirror image of what the mass or what the government is doing to the masses around the world.
Wow. That's exactly true. And definitely with social media, I think everybody's kind of sort of becoming like a little narcissist, look at me, look at me. And it's like, Instagram models and all that stuff. And it's actually, even if they're unhappy, they try to project as if they're doing really well in life. And then, of course, when you scroll through it, people sometimes get jealous. Oh, this person is doing so great in their life. I'm doing terribly. It's like that. They pit us against each other in some bizarre way, while it's like divide and conquer kind of thing. So while we're on this topic, transhumanism, what are your thoughts on cloning? And do you think there's there's always this rumors going on that celebrities are being cloned, and there's also like robotoids. And I don't know if you've seen this footage. Like I've seen footage of people like celebrities almost like freezing on camera, like they're very very like still. I don't know if you've seen some of those, and like I've even seen some people, like a group of people, like extremely still, like it's unbelievable. And then they just sort of walk out of it, like we're part of some kind of Truman Show. I just wanted to know if you what you thought about that.
So from my research, there have been these cloning programs from aliens to humans going on for
Hmm.
decades now.
Okay.
It's not a new thing if you research a lot of this stuff. Uh, these black projects, and this is another reason why they brought a lot of the Nazi scientists and
Hmm.
physicians over after World War II, not just for Operation Paperclip in the space program, but to insert them into the medical industry as
Right.
a form of control and manipulation on that form.
Okay.
So, in reference to cloning specifically, there's a I don't have the exact perspective, like the reference points for the ancient versions of the ancient experiments that have been going on. That's still kind of up in the air and borderline into belief systems.
Okay.
But as far as clones go, from the evidence that I've seen, there's a definite sort of non-player character,
Yeah.
NPC version of the human experience that exists out there. And I wouldn't be surprised if the government has gone into reproducing that and using that for their own good. I mean, the differences between people, the baseline for this is the people can say, oh, these clones don't have souls. There's all the kind of stuff going on with clones don't have souls. And
Hmm.
going into my belief system of this experience overall, if you can have a higher, like the soul of the individual having a physical experience in this dimension,
Hmm.
being that a soul is able to vibrate beyond this dimension, then there are experiences, or maybe kind of lighter weight diet souls, if that,
Hmm.
going into little to no soul, being
Hmm.
able to experience this physical reality and to get into that and tap that and use that for their own kind of agendas out there, not only wouldn't surprise me, but to look at it and see a lot of these celebrities who are glitching out, who
Yes.
are, having no psychological interpretations of what's going on, playing by the rules of these genocidal maniacs, these psychopaths. You
Yeah.
have people who are believing these things that are going on. People are dying on a massive scale. People are being poisoned on a massive scale, and then you have people who can't even allow themselves to entertain that conversation.
Hmm.
So when you go into that space, I see that as inhumane. And even beyond that, they're not really there. These are empty vessels.
Yes.
So as far as cloning an entire the highest vibrational, like a naturally born human, and cloning that, I don't see that being possible, but I do see the lower vibrating forms of the human experience being cloned and being able to walk among us without being seen for what they are. And then you can see this goes straight into why the education system and the scientific communities are hell bent on, in a sense, de-evolving the mass population. There's a very big benefit in keeping you from thinking beyond. If you were, as an individual and going into the masses, were allowed to be as smart as you can be as powerful and strong as you can be as healthy as you can be, there would be no need for a control group. So to have the masses be as dumb as they could be, but still be functional to maintain the system is a very big benefit. And if you have an entire army of barely functioning beings to lead those masses, then that's basically all you would need to continue to maintain control into the future that you would need to continue whatever agendas that you're putting out there. So that's how I see a lot of these, what people shrink down into the cloning events and so on and so forth.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for sharing your take on that. That's very fascinating information you're providing us. And so let's talk about something called CERN. We know, I mean, I didn't really hear about CERN until I researched, the Mandela Effect and those kind of things. And I saw like people were kind of like correlating the two of them. Since 2012, I think CERN turned on something, and some people are saying it's like the gateway to hell. Alex Jones was actually caught saying that. And so what are your thoughts on CERN? What do you think is going on? Are they just colliding particles randomly and trying to like find new universes or dimensions? Or do you think there's more of a nefarious purpose to it all? Like, or is it like you said, like it's just a happy accident? Oops, we opened the gateway to hell. What are your thoughts on that?
See, even before that, I go into from observing CERN.
Yeah.
I've been researching CERN since before I started researching the Mandela Effect. And CERN is being used by the scientific institution, the Scientific Mind Control Program, heavily.
Right.
And once I see that, that's when I start to notice that it's not so much what these systems can do, because the illusions of what these systems can do is actually more powerful. So the power comes from the belief systems of the people. So believing that they can open up the doorways to hell, believing that they can create black holes, is actually just as powerful as them actually doing it, because the belief system will allow the systems to carry on. So when I see CERN saying that, they're opening up doorways to hell, first you have fear programming going on, then you have the godly nature of them being able to do that. So like I said in the beginning, the belief system of the masses to first believe that you could open up a doorway to hell is a very beneficial thing for them, because here's another belief system that puts them on the same par as God.
Right.
So when science can transcend this dimension, now you're stepping into the middle grounds of moving into godly nature. So CERN is kind of like a head, like the one of the tips of the spear of what's going on with our believing that the scientific community is on the same level as God. So when they're telling these stories and dancing around and playing in these new age kind of circles of,
yes, I've seen those,
selling, you've seen those dancing, and
it's terrible.
Yeah. So it's a show. So it's more of a show to me than it is based in any kind of reality. And how I started over observing the Mandela Effect over time, once I started to see the connections to the Mandela Effect, that's when I started to to see that the Mandela effect is actually being used as another form of belief to believe into. So what is the purpose of believing into the Mandela effect? Well, the main thing that I was seeing was that once you believe into the Mandela effect, you can now easily believe into the CERN program and what they're
Hmm.
doing with CERN. And since
Right.
people are not going to really go into the depths of, the why these government programs are doing what they're doing, they're they're really going to sit in the space of believing whatever the system tells them. So when the scientific community says, yeah, we are opening up doorways, and if you've been experiencing the Mandela effect, then you are proof that this is going on. So
Yeah.
I don't believe that the CERN agenda connected to the mainstream Mandela effect, because now they have a movie out about the
Yeah. I
Mandela
saw
effect.
it.
And then when they put
Yeah.
excuse me, I'm sorry, when they
No,
put a
no, go ahead.
movie out,
Yeah.
when they put a movie about this stuff,
Yeah.
then you got to really start. That's kind of like the confirmation that something's going on. They might as well have made a documentary about it, like, and put it on Netflix. So
Yeah.
it's the same thing. It's about controlling your belief system about what's going on. And as deep as CERN is in the scientific community, and once I saw they were what they were doing, and when you really think about it, what they're not doing, they're only you only see what they're telling you they're doing. We
Exactly.
only see what telling us they're doing.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
then on top of that, you have China, the other superpower that has their own CERN program going on. And China has the super CERN that's out there, and
Yeah.
it's more powerful than ours, and they could be just so they could easily pass the buck if they were to run some, Project Blue Beam program
Yeah.
on a massive scale. Either China could pass the buck on us in our CERN program, or we could pass the buck on China and their CERN program, and then you have no accountability or responsibility for what's going on. There's another segue into, uh, you know, well, people see this stuff that's because they see things in the sky. They're seeing this stuff, so it has to be real. They're experiencing the Mandela effect, so it has to be real. We have science to back it up, and then now you have not only the mainstream consciousness, but now you have the midstream consciousness. So I call
Hmm.
the midstream consciousness is kind of like the conspiracy theory researchers that are out
Yeah.
there who go outside of the mainstream
Right.
interpretation of belief systems and start to venture out into stuff like CERN, the Mandela effect, and so on and so forth. But a lot of the people in the midstream consciousness still hold on to the need for their kind of comfort blanket, like they're the comfort blanket of the scientific power, the scientific power groups, still have our best interests in mind, or they still need that system to stay afloat because they love the comforts of that system.
Right.
So once you break out of that, then you can start analyzing and seeing beyond the belief systems and beyond the mind control programs that are out there. So all the stuff that was going on with CERN, and when I started to piece all that stuff together, and here we are now, what, 5-6 years later,
Yeah.
and basically you have the same stories that were 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
And once I started to see that, that's kind of like why I started to pull away from a lot of the CERN research and the CERN videos that I was doing, and the Mandela Effect videos that I was doing, is because it started to become repetitive, and
Yeah.
I was pretty much adding to the algorithms of the mind control programs that they needed people to do. So once I started to realize that, that's when I started to share my perspectives, like I'm sharing with you right now. Like, okay, well, instead of being inside the Mandela effect, inside the CERN program, let's get outside of this, let go of it for now. Yeah, it's cool, it's very interesting,
Yeah.
and all this stuff is very, even with flat earth, very interesting, but how does this fit into the grander scale of things? The not only how we are being manipulated, but the form, the actual, the platform, the system of manipulation. How is that working, and how does this fit in the grander scheme? So that's kind of where I put CERN in the CERN program.
Right.
And the kicker to that is you have all of the mainstream scientists like Neil deGrasse Tyson, Michio Kaku, Ray Kurzweil, all of these futurism pushers are pushing the CERN program, then that's when you start to say, okay, well, this is definitely part of a system, an agenda for the so-called future. And CERN fits perfectly into transhumanism because CERN is basically the platform for believing in the simulation theory.
Yeah.
And simulation, and in order to get people to believe into the transhumanism program, they have to first believe that this is a simulation and that their bodies are just a simulation, their minds.
That's a great point.
Yeah. And once you break down, you have to the simulation theory is basically the motherboard, and then you can put in all the other pieces of hardware and software into the motherboard after they believe in the simulation. So the in-house belief system in stepping towards transhumanism is to first believe in simulation theory. The way to do that in-house is to get them, make it a part of their reality. So the Mandela effect being pushed out there by the algorithms of YouTube is a part of that process, because now you have people talking to their kids, you have people talking to their friends and family. Hey, remember the Berenstain Bears? Remember Jiffy peanut butter? Remember Luke, I am your father? Remember all this stuff that's a part of the Mandela effect? And they're like, yeah, like all the emotion, all of the vested energy that's into that program. That's another way to hook people. And once you're hooked into that and it's in-house, it's in your world, then you can move into, well, what does science say about the Mandela effect? Well, Hollywood's already said this about the Mandela effect because they put the Mandela Effect movie out there in 2019. So they must have researched it. So, and Hollywood is connected to the university system, and they're talking about, and all of the university belief systems are in the movie. So that's why the university systems working hand in hand with Hollywood is kind of like pre-chewing this information for the masses. And once your food has been pre-chewed, all you have to do is swallow. You don't have to do anything else but swallow it, get it into your system, and move on. So programs like CERN and transhumanism and everything else are basically just a part of the pre-chew process for the masses to move into whatever belief system that they are going to sell next.
That's a very, very great point. And definitely there's some kind of like it's a distraction almost, like at this point. Like I understand, for me the Mandela effect was nice as like a little spiritual awakening. Okay, there's more to this material realm, because I used to be kind of like into atheism and stuff, but it kind of got me out of it. And so to use it like that is one thing, but to get caught up in it and only, like, I know some channels and only talk on that and nothing else is kind of almost like, okay, what are we going to do after this? Like, are we going to end world hunger with this? For example, like how many people are homeless and how many people, if it is a simulation, why don't we just give people what they need? Like, so as I did more research into that, I found the world wasn't getting any better since the Mandela effect phenomenon. Because when I first woke up to it, I thought, wow, like in a couple of years, the whole world is going to be like awesome. Like, and in some ways, it's actually gotten worse. I mean, especially like since 2020. I guess in some ways it's waking some people up, but at the same time, all these small businesses are going under. People are losing their homes. It's almost like becoming more rapid, the bad things and the good things in some way. So,
exactly. The masses are being rapidly going on a downward slope, while you have a smaller percentage of people who have the illusion of moving up, the illusion of moving forward. And that's a part of because a big part of all of these systems is to consume your time. Yeah, time is very, very crucial, because as long as they can control the time, they can control, they have more time to evolve they have more time to research you. And through social media, through the entertainment industry, through the education system, they have more time to research you and refine their mind control programs on a massive scale. So this is why the New Age program or the New Age agenda is a part of this system, and how it fits into the Mandela effect, because the new age mentality is all about focusing on the individual and having the illusion of focusing on the masses, the mass programming that's going on, but not really having any goals and not transferring that energy over to actually doing anything. But it's all about oneness and being in a meditative state, which is another form of being in a non interactive state, just allowance, just be, I am, be this. And as long as you're being something and not doing, you're not doing anything. And the system can continue to evolve while you're sitting in a space of meditation. So I like how you said, like the Mandela effect was a kind of like a spiritual experience. And that's another part that's where I was starting to, or talking about in many of my videos, is that the new age agenda has a very, very big social media footprint. It's online, very big. A lot of people's new age experiences are coming from YouTube videos, and then they go out and to have these events with other people. And then the Mandela effect is kind of like an introduction, a bringing of the mainstream sciences into the new age process. And because a lot of these new agers, like I said, a lot of these other the midstream, the new age is a part of the midstream consciousness. So you have like people like Oprah and her Super Soul Sunday, and she has all these people like Deepak Chopra and Eckhart Tolle and these Hollywood actors who are, it's like Susan Sarandon, who are having these ayahuasca trips and doing all this stuff and talking about interdimensions and all this stuff. And then you got to start questioning this stuff. This is another TV show for people to believe in. And like I said, the in-house belief system, the in-house sucking into that program is stuff like the Mandela effect. And then you have people who already have their new age, what's the word, kind of experience on their own. Like individuals are saying, you know what, the mainstream media is lying. I need to start healing myself. I need to start. So another part of this is the food. Like people are eating better food now. So this is another form of evolving yourself and becoming a better person and being more of the I am presence and pushing all of these, gurus out there. It's a Western form, like a Western form of spirituality. There's a Western form of science, and these forms of these systems are westernizing your so-called evolution into another trap, basically.
I do agree, because I did follow some of the new age people, and they're always talking about, oh, you can manifest whatever you want. You just have to think about it. You just have to have a positive mindset. And meanwhile, the real money that they're making is either from their YouTube revenue, because a lot of people are watching, or, they have like a book out, or they have all these things. So how come you're not just manifesting it on your own? How come you're doing all this to make your money, right? It's not like they're just like doing it for free. Right. And they're making, like you said, it's like $1 billion industry, just like the self-help industry. Right. It's you get some vulnerable people that are going through like real emotional trauma. And then it's nice for a while to think positive. I mean, there's nothing against it. I'm not saying, no, don't be positive. But at the same time, you have to do things. Right. You have to like have goals, and because we still live in this physical realm. Right. We're not dead yet. We're still alive, and we have things to do here. And since you mentioned the ayahuasca and the DMT, people it's almost become like an escapism. It's like they're escaping this realm. Like I said, there's still a lot of problems in this realm. So instead of like going there, maybe DMT can help you give you a new perspective. But some people are like, oh, I'm ready to, transcend this dimension and go to the next. I'm ready to die. Like it's almost some are almost like talking like they're almost suicidal. Like they just want to like go into the next dimension. No, I'm like, you're still a young person. You still have your whole life to live here, right? It's a great opportunity we have here. I mean, God or whoever created us to do things. So definitely.
It's a numbing agent. Like a lot of the fear programming is another numbing agent. It numbs you to what's going on. The false flag events, these are numbing agents. And as long as you're numb, you're not going to feel the stab wounds. You're not going to feel the effects of all these programs that are going on. So there's positive numbing agents like the New Age community, and then you have negative
Yeah.
numbing agents like the false flag events that are going on.
Right. So it's like a positive and a negative ions. Like I don't know if you've done research into the electric universe theory. So maybe there's some kind of like a battery works. There's a constant negative and then there's constant positive, and then that's how they kind of keep this whole place charged up. That's one of my theories I
Definitely,
had.
yeah.
Yeah, like this constant battle between good and evil. Like oh, this side is good, this side is evil, and then they have the world wars that really essentially what did world wars accomplish really? What did any war accomplish? It just depopulated a lot of people. A lot of innocent people lost their lives, really. And nobody won in the end because we all kind of lost a lot of people, right? Like only maybe the politicians made a lot of money out of it at the end of the day. So, yeah. So speaking of this, since you mentioned false flag events, so what do you think are the biggest false flag events that we've had, say, in the last maybe 50 years or so? And what do you think is the major false flag event that's going on right now as we speak?
Well, I guess might be kind of surprising, but the biggest false flag event that I believe that's going on right now, since
Mm-hmm.
I come from a perspective of empowering, not only empowering the individual, but empowering the people on a massive scale. The biggest false flag event that I see is the false flag of the people believing that the people believing that they are mostly that they are just physical beings and nothing else. And then they
Mm-hmm.
are in this space of just a physical meat suit, and
Yeah.
beyond that, a deeper perspective of that is, or a good example of that are the Aboriginal Americans who are believing that they are from Africa. So
Mm-hmm.
this is just a microcosm of the macrocosm that's going on right now. People believing that they have ownership over land, like the Queen owning the entire world, Queen of
Yeah, yeah,
England owning the entire world. You're in
yeah,
Canada, so you have
yeah.
all of that land is owned by
The Queen.
but yeah, some queen,
I know.
some queen bee somewhere
Yeah.
else. And all of these, the native land, the indigenous lands, and the indigenous peoples of the world who are still in this space of, I'm still here, I'm still alive, like we're still saying the same stories that are going on. See, that's another false flag event. The
Mm-hmm.
flags themselves are false flags. That's the biggest flag that I see. The flags, the Canadian flag, the
Right.
United States of American flag. Like
Yeah.
these are the biggest false flags that are going on. And
Wow.
all of the so-called false flags that are used within that flag, those flags are just micro flags. Like you have 9/11, but that's used to, do all the stuff that the other false flags programs that were going on, like the sinking of the ships and like to spark off like Vietnam, us going
Yeah.
into Vietnam, and then you have the Gulf of Tonkin, and then you have all these other things that are storylines to keep the little people thinking and talking about stuff that with their closest friends. They would talk about weather talk and elevator talk with other people, but with their close friends they'll talk about conspiracy theories or little false flags here and there. Yeah, that's cool and all, but the false flag of disempowering the masses of people is the biggest false flag that's going on right now.
I totally I really like how you brought the country flags into this. And for me personally, one of the biggest false flag is definitely going to always be the moon landing, because the first thing they did was
Yeah,
plant that flag right there. This
exactly,
moon was
exactly, yeah.
so
And I'm glad you brought that up too,
yeah.
because I would include that into the bit one of the biggest false flags that's going on, is because that goes into the separating you from this entire experience control measure. So creating the identity of a heliocentric universe adds to the foundation of believing that you came from a big bang, believing that you're just this piece of snot that was shat out of the big bang and ejected into the future through dinosaurs, through monkeys, and now here you are with a smartphone. Like that's a
Yeah.
false flag event right now that's
Oh yeah.
continuing on. And that's at least on equal par with the flags, if not deeper than the flags, because the flags come after that, like to
Right.
disempower the first disempower you to separate you from earth, to separate you from your resources, through believing that people can control that because they have the intellect of the future and the power of destroying you and so on and so forth. So this is the false flag of disempowerment overall includes stuff like the heliocentric model and the monkey evolution program and the flag program and so on.
Okay, so yeah, speaking of the heliocentric model, so I assume you've done a lot of research into the flat Earth, and of course, all our senses point to a stationary flat Earth, right? Like, I mean, it seems flat, it feels flat. I mean, nobody really feels the rotation. Also, but the scientific establishment will always, give you 1,000 excuses of why you can't feel it. And I've even seen footage over 20 miles up, and it's still like flat horizon. And in the beginning, when I used to believe in the globe, I just thought, okay, maybe when will we see that curve, right? But you never quite see that. Now, I'm not saying the Earth is flat 100%. It could be like a realm or some kind of like, I don't understand. There could be like a firmament. I don't fully understand what it is, but definitely it's not the heliocentric model, as far as I'm concerned. Now, the whole heliocentric model, the purpose of it, to my knowledge, is kind of to bring about the alien agenda, like all these different planets with different life forms, Star Wars and all that stuff. It's all leading up to something. Like maybe I don't know if you heard this, but I think Rob Werner, I believe, who was the NASA head or something, like he used to be like a Nazi guy.
Werner von Braun.
Yeah, sorry, Werner. Sorry, I got the name wrong. But he did mention on his deathbed to watch out for the alien, the final alien invasion. They're going to be like some kind of a fake alien invasion that's going to like really, maybe that's part of Project Bluebeam. But it seems like all of this heliocentric model and everything is going into that. I mean, ultimately, that's what they're trying to establish. What are your thoughts on that?
That's basically what I've been talking about on my channel for some years now. Even before that, like I said, first of all, disempowering the masses through disempowering their belief in who they are. So the beginnings of the heliocentric model come from a big bang, some kind of mistake that happened that that it exploded. So in believing in the Big Bang, you're believing in the evolution program, the evolution theory. In believing that, you're believing in the dinosaur theory. You're believing in the evolution of the dinosaurs into monkeys, and then you're a monkey. So now you're just an animal. You're an empty animal. And on specifically the heliocentric model, how we view the heliocentric model is that all of these planets and all of these stars are basically just dead. There's no connection to the spiritual. There's no connection to the ancestral interpretations of what we had, our relationship to the planets, or what they call the wandering stars. There's no connection to the stars. There's no connection to the firmament. There's no connection to the earth. There's no connection to anything that is going to empower the masses.
Right.
So that's first and foremost. In order to get people to believe in a system, you have to first dumb them down. So the system that they want people to believe in are systems like you were talking about, the alien agenda. First, you have to, like the simulation theory, for them believing into transhumanism. For them to believe into the alien agenda, they have to first believe into a universe where these aliens come from. And these aliens are coming from, some of these aliens are more evolved than you. They're smarter than you. Why? Because your universe from the heliocentric model is tiny and young and dead and empty, and you're stupid and blowing everything up. So these aliens, here's another intelligence that is beyond yours. Just like the university, the governments, the politics are more intelligent than you. So it's all about keeping you on a lower tier, keeping them in a middle tier. Right now they're on the higher tier, the government and everything. We're on the lower tier because they're higher than us.
Right.
But when they insert in a higher thought system, a higher intelligence, that puts them on the middle tier, but we're still on the lower tier as the
Yes.
masses because we're dumber than them. But
Yeah. Yeah.
see what it does is they have an illusory higher tier with these aliens, and then if they're on the middle tier above our lower tier, they're still on the higher tier. They just have a new way of tricking us into believing in what's going on, like into believing into their systems, into their trickery, basically. So how I see the alien agenda is just how I see the CERN agenda. It's a belief system to get them to push their next version of mind control, their next version of physical body control, and moving into deeper control on a massive scale through a new age. The new age agenda is also a part of this, because once you bring in life forms from a different universe, you're basically unifying the humans under one race. And this is a big part of the new age agenda, into demonizing and throwing out all of the stuff that has gone on through colonialism.
Right.
Because your culture, knowing your history, knowing your culture, connecting with your people is a superpower. It's a
Yes.
power. Like there's a power in knowing, in just like there's a power in being connected with, a strong family unit. There's a power there. So to disempower those people, you have to remove them from that belief system and insert we're all one, we're all human. Forget about that stuff and demonize people by saying, you're racist, you're divisive, if you're talking about, you're these people and we're those people, then you're not a part of the new way of thinking. You're
Right.
not a part of this new evolved human. And like I said, with the narcissistic program, they can just guilt and shame you into the old version of human who's still hung up on race. No, I'm not hung up on race. I just know that there are programs that are still existing internally in the individuals that haven't been healed yet. And you can't move forward if you have two broken legs. If you haven't broken down the systemic racism and how that's affected us in the past, in the present, and moving into the future, then you're going to be creating a broken foundation for your future. So that system of broken foundations for the future is beneficial for the mainstream agenda, because if you walk into the future with a broken foundation, they can give you an artificial foundation, which is exactly what they've been planning for, because they want to hurry up and push you into doing whatever they want you to do, but they will take their time in doing what they're doing, and you'll just have to go with it.
Right.
So, because as long as you're in this state of chaos,
right.
then you'll have to, then you'll need somebody to fill those spaces. So, creating the Big Bang Theory, creating the heliocentric model, literally explosions, literally everything's on fire. The sun, it separates you from the sun, which is closer than we are being told. It's not 93 million miles away or whatever.
It's saying. Ridiculous.
It separates you from the moon. It separates you from your balance of this experience. So you can even go into astrology and how they break down your relationship when you were born to the planets, and the planets being aligned at a certain time. It's a breaking down of the ancestral teachings, the ancestral interpretations of what's going on, so that you can worship whatever they're selling you in the present moment.
I totally agree, because astrology is a huge thing, because it can plan, some people even use it to plan their life according to the planets. There's so much going on there which is being hidden. So we've talked about a lot of things here. We've talked about a lot of, control systems and lies, manipulation, all these things going on in this life while we're here in this realm right now. Now, let's talk about the afterlife. I mean, I know it's maybe it sounds like a bit of a morbid topic, but we're not here forever, right? So do you think all this control system continues even after we're dead? Do you think there's going to be when we're in our souls, when we've left this mortal body, do you think there are control systems out there still, perpetuating this heaven and hell? Oh, you belong in heaven, you belong in hell kind of thing. Do you think it continues on this manipulation and these systems? Or do you think we're completely free to, exist in our own consciousness? What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on that?
I wouldn't transfer the control perspective from here to beyond here.
Okay.
I see it more personally from experience. So
Okay.
being vibrational beings, we are all equipped to have this experience in this realm right now.
Okay.
Through this experience in our previous experiences, maybe we're allowed to have a different experience that doesn't involve control. Maybe it involves more of expanding your intellect. Maybe it
Mm-hmm.
involves something that we can't even comprehend from this little tiny perspective in this realm right now. That's more of where I come from.
Okay.
And I don't base the afterlife on the present life, because this present life is so like basic, it's so
Yeah.
mediocre, and beyond that it's based upon how far we can think. Like, you can't comprehend something in another dimension from this dimension, just like you can't, like the level of consciousness can't comprehend something from a higher level of consciousness. Until you reach that consciousness, then you'll be able to get to that space. But from this realm of experience, it would be kind of arrogant to really say like, oh yeah, there's control groups that are still like, I don't give these fairy tales and these groups that much control, that much power. That's part of the disempowering agenda. I
Wow.
don't go there.
That's good. So thank you. And I've always heard of, if you don't fix your karma, you have to come back. There's some people that are like, pushing that on, on like some religious concepts going on like that. And you're absolutely right. Even sometimes when you have a really nice dream, right? You're like in a totally
I was
different
just
state.
about to go. I was just
Synchronicity.
about to go into that. Yeah.
Synchronicity, my friend. Yeah, and like you just completely forget this world and you're in a completely different reality for a while, right? And you even sometimes meet people. Maybe your soul is traveling, maybe you're astral projecting, I don't know, but you're absolutely right. When you're in a dream state, you forget about this world. So any thoughts? Yeah, tell me your thoughts on dreams and things
Yeah,
like that.
I've dreamed
Yeah.
the dream experience. The dream
Yeah.
realm has been a big part of I've shared a lot of videos and perspectives. That was another part of why I started my YouTube channel, was to share the dream experience and get people's insight on that, and share my experience, because I've been
Okay.
a heavy duty lucid dreamer since I was 2 years old. I've been
Wow.
remembering dreams, and I remember experiences not dreaming when I was 2 years old. So up until now, and I'm going to be 39 this year. So
Oh.
this is I have a lifetime. If there was anything that I'm very experienced at, it's dreaming and the dream realm. So that having that experience, a lot of like how I explain like my interpretation of the experience, it's rooted in my experiences in the dream realm, because I've interacted with beings that are not of this realm in the dream realm, and
Mm-hmm.
I've interacted with fear and interacted with all of the things that we sense and experience when we're awake are multiplied intensely, thousands and thousands of times over. If you experience fear in a dream, it's thousands of times more intense. Like, the emotion is another form of control. So you're when you're in a dream, you're limited by how far you can go into the dream, by how much you are rooted into the conscious experience.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why little kids, when they are interacting with a nightmare, they wake up.
Yeah.
Because the emotion of fear has shocked them out of that ability to do something in that realm, and it wakes them up into here, because they're reverting back to the roots of this place. So my roots have been planted here and in the dream realm since
Right.
I was 2 years old, for 37 years now.
Wow.
So I have this experience to where my roots are very firmly planted, not in a sense of I'm more of a dream than I'm here. No, in a sense of realizing that I'm all of these experiences at the same time. and we have a reason for going into that sleep space, that fasting when we are sleeping, and then waking up. There's a reason for that. I'm not claiming to know what that reason is. Obviously, I don't want to, like, there's a reason why we don't know. And if that's a part of this experience, then I'm just going to go with it until it's my time to leave here. So in that reconnecting with the dreams, another big part of that, once I realized later, is that the dream realm is was a very big part of our ancestors' interpretations of this reality. So once I started to see that, that pushed me even further into challenging myself to interpreting what the dreams were, what dreams are, the connections, the relationships, the information that comes from dreams. We have so many connections with people who have so-called passed on from this experience.
Yes.
And now we have lessons. We have, I mean, you can learn so much in the dream realm, but first you have to create that relationship, and you have to, and that's creating a relationship with yourself. So, like I said, in relation to like what we're talking about in this entire video, like the having interacted with beings that in my conscious space, in my waking space, that I would relate to what you were talking about, the controllers and so forth.
Yes.
Having interacted with those types of beings in the dream space and having held my ground, having faced them and not run away, not letting the emotion of the fear take over, having faced that and having dealt with some really intense things that have happened in dreams, really kind of empowers you to not sit in the space of any other being or any other system having any control over you. There's no separation between you and all of the energy that is everything that we can perceive right now. And when you're in the dream, like you said, like there's you can't, there's nothing to hold on to.
Yeah.
You're floating around, like you're in your subconscious space. You're in this basically this infinite space of experience. And when you're in there, anything can happen. And when you're in a space of anything can happen, then that means that you are empowered with the anything can happen sort of strength.
Right.
So if anything can happen to you, then when that's happening to you, you have the power to respond with anything can happen in response to that thing that's happening to you. So if I can interpret that in a dream space, then who's to say that's not the same thing that's happening when we so-called pass on from here. So that's why I said that beyond seeing the afterlife from a control measure, we're more powerful than that. And if you go into dreams, then there's your proof right there. And
right.
And a lot of people have difficulty with doing that because there's an attack on dreams right now.
Oh, yeah.
On my YouTube channel, I talk about how cannabis is a big attack on dreams, and this is not across the board, but yeah, cannabis. Personally, cannabis really kind of shuts down my dreams, and or at least it shuts down my accessibility to the dream realm. And how I kind of relate that to why that does that is because what cannabis does is it takes a lot of your subconscious experience and brings it into the conscious reality for that moment, for the time that you're high. You're high on your subconscious. You're high on your infinite in that moment. And the way you interpret it is through, I'm high, like I feel good. I'm like, everything's funny. Like I'm hungry. I want to experience, like we're having a good, I love you. Like I love this. And everything is like amazing. But it's just for a certain amount of time. So we're taking a lot of that energy. This is another reason why like we get like tired. Some people get tired when they smoke, or when they ingest whatever it is, cannabis. You're taking a lot of the energy that you would be able to invest into the dream space, and you're using it in your conscious reality.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. And this is just from my own experience, and it's been corroborated by like people who have been watching my YouTube channels, there's a lot of people who say the same thing. That they say that as soon as they smoke, they're not dreaming for days,
Oh,
or they just can't remember their dreams for days. And like I've taken breaks. I used to smoke cannabis and I stopped, and I had an allergic reaction to it. It kind of forced me to stop. So I haven't ingested cannabis in over a year now.
okay.
And even before that, like I realized, and even my family members and close friends were saying the same thing. Once I smoke, or once they smoke, their dreams are basically turned off.
Wow.
And once I started to see that, and this sort of pushing of cannabis into the mainstream culture,
Yeah.
that's when I started to see, oh, this is another power move under the guise of being positive. So you know how positive cannabis is, and this has nothing to do with. I'm not saying like cannabis is bad or anything, because the positive effects from cannabis and medicinal effects of cannabis, I'm all
Yes.
for that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not against
Of
any of
course.
that, like CBD and all that other stuff, all great. Like if you have to do that, if you're needing that for pain and all this other stuff, perfect, do it. That's no different than like the medicinal effects of ayahuasca. But just like
Yeah.
cannabis, you can overuse
Of
all
course,
of
like
these
anything.
medicines. These are tools.
Yeah.
So like I have nothing against that, and people get into that. They're like, oh, this is a program against cannabis. And I'm like, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, you know, there are these, everything that you're using right now that's outside of your just pure center of, you know, whatever it is, your thought. It's a tool. It's a tool
Right.
to move you forward, or move you in some kind of direction while you're here. So
Right.
there's a lot of separation. The overuse of fear in the Hollywood program. The TV is another form of like controlling your dreams. Work 8 to 5 or 9 to 5
Oh, yeah. That's a
is
big one.
another form of control. Like when you go to sleep and you have dreams of being at work, that's the worst thing that you could ever have. So
Yeah.
like it's across the board, but that's a big part. I don't know if we want to get into that right now, but that's a big part of like what I talk to. I love talking about dreams. So
Awesome.
yeah, I talk about that forever.
But really, Subtle Infinity, it's been so great having you on this show. And before we go, I just wanted to like also like let our viewers know that you've had certain experiences in the military. And one time when you were in the army, you were almost kicked out for refusing the H1N1 vaccine. And you know, soldiers were forced to take it, something that against their will, you know, just to stay in the army. So I think this is kind of happening to some people right now. Like if they don't wear the mask or they take the vaccine, they're like in fear of losing their jobs. So since you already been through all of this and you survived, like military can be a very hard place. What is your advice to viewers right now that are going through all this COVID-19 stuff? What is your advice to them and how to stay strong during these times and the best ways to like, I mean, you've shared with us so many things. So what's the best thing to do for the viewer who is like totally lost right now and kind of scared? What's your best? How do they start to heal from this?
Well, that's a tough one. I really start. It depends, because you have people who are like you're saying totally lost. If you're totally lost, then start by questioning what, use the mainstream kind of push out there of information to let go of it for a moment. Let go of it and say, well, challenge yourself to be your own leader. Challenge yourself to be your own intellectual advisor,
Right.
and let go of everything that you're being told to believe in. Just like a soldier in the military, you're told to do something and you're supposed to do it without question. I
Yeah.
was told in the military to take the H1N1 vaccine and tell my soldiers and their family members to take this vaccine,
Yeah.
and make them do that against my own research, the research that I was doing, that was telling me that there is a possibility that these kids and these people, these soldiers, could be damaged for the rest of their lives. For
Wow.
me, I was on my way out of the military at that time. I only had a year left,
Right.
and I had a year left in the army, but I have the rest of my life in my body. And they're saying, oh, well, you're the only one in red on, you know, on the whole island right now. And you have to do this. Why? Because you're still a soldier. You're still okay. Well, part of my responsibility as a soldier is the welfare of my soldiers, and the welfare I can't take care of the welfare of my soldiers, the health and welfare of my soldiers, if I don't take care of the health and welfare of myself. Health, health is psychological health at the same time. So researching this information is a part of being healthy. So once I started to research that information, that's when I started to create this relationship with my own intuition. That's another part, that another recommendation I would give to people is to follow your gut, create a relationship with your gut, create a relationship with your intuition. Right. Don't jump to belief systems or conclusions just because a system, a power, an authority has told you to. A lot of these systems are based upon authority and controlling you on a massive scale through authority. So if you have first, like think twice about if a Hollywood actor is telling you to do something, you know, think twice about that. If a Hollywood actor is talking to a so-called medical authority, like this Dr. Fucci or whoever he is, I mispronounced his name because, like, you know, got YouTube algorithms, all this other stuff. But you know, if these people are all teaming up and all this other stuff, then start to question a lot of their belief systems and use their belief systems as a reference point. Use their science as a reference point. If they're telling you to do this, well, research why they're telling you to stay away from this. And stay and accept this, because there's a lot of things out there that we are told to believe and told to accept, that once you do a lot of this research, you'll see that it's demonstrably not true. Like and in fact, it's counterproductive to your own basic health and welfare. Yeah. So I guess for starters, just start to find a way to get into thinking for yourself outside of what the authority figures have told you to believe in. Because if you research a lot of the systems that these authority figures are attached to from history, then you'll start to realize that these authority figures do not have our best interests in mind. And the way that they sell these programs to hurt us in the long run is to sell them to us as they are for our benefit in the present moment. So these individuals are not working. These systems are not working, you know, for your benefit in, you know, 10, 20, 100 years from now. They don't care what you're doing, what your body is doing 20, 150 years from now. They care about you believing into a belief system right now, so you'll believe into the next system that's coming up. So it's not so much about the nuts and bolts of what they're trying to get you to believe in. It's more so of how they're getting you to believe them overall. The authority and fear, guilt, and shame are some of their main things. Like I said, in the narcissistic programming, fear, guilt, and shame are some of the biggest programs that they're using. And if the government has been proving to be using fear, they've been proven to use guilt, they've been proven to use shame, especially with these jab programs that they got going on right now. Yeah. If that is going on and they're going public with that right now, and you have masses of people who are doing that, then start to question that. And once you start questioning, that's when you start opening up the door to a lot of these answers that you didn't even know were there. And until then, you're just going to be believing in whatever the answers that they give you. And that's when you're going to start changing things, when you start letting go of that need.
Awesome. Thank you so much. You've shared so much with us. And how can our viewers find you online? And do you have any resources that they can contact you at, or anything like that?
Okay. So yeah, my main YouTube channel is Subtle Infinity on YouTube. Okay. I have a backup YouTube channel, Subtle Infinity 2. I haven't really put as much on there, but I've been threatened with my channel being taken down many different times. They have this is why I was telling you, even in this video, when you upload it, maybe bleep out the word vaccine, because if you're going to
Yeah.
put it on your YouTube channel, because on my backup YouTube channel, I was sharing a mixtape that I use because I'm on Instagram, subtle_infinity
Wow.
on Instagram. I share a lot of videos from Instagram, and I put them into a compilation, and I put them into a video for YouTube.
Hmm.
And a lot of that stuff is it's just a broad spectrum approach to information in general. And
Interesting.
some of that stuff is like medical information. So recently shared a compilation with a video about a pediatrician who was speaking at a city council meeting, talking about how the jab programs haven't been tested on children, and they've been tested on animals, and the animals were dying, and they stopped these
Wow.
these tests because the
Very
animals
heavy.
were dying. And these pediatricians are forced to give these chemicals to these kids because the state has told them to, but there's no scientific background. They don't have the regular backing for this because it's not FDA approved. They don't have
Right.
the regular backing for this stuff. So that was a video that was taken down on and that was from her mouth. That was from, at a city council meeting.
Okay.
And there was other videos in there too, but YouTube's labeled that video as medical misinformation.
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah.
once they label that as medical misinformation, you're going against the CDC and whatever it is that they're saying is the authority figures of thought in the medical industry. If you're going against that, then they're going to keep your voice from getting out there. So there's that, and then there's even sharing information about whatever it is. Like I talk about systemic racism on my channel.
Hmm.
That some people and some algorithms see that as hate speech. So
Right.
even bringing that up. So I've had videos taken down for that. So I'm fighting that here and there. I'm getting ready to move over to another platform, possibly like BitChute. I don't know what's the big one out there that doesn't censor. But as of now, my channel is still up.
Wow.
And it's still like I watch myself here and there, and now I'm starting to upload more videos. So that's still up. Subtle Infinity on YouTube is still running. I have please check out the playlist section there, because there's over 1,100 videos on that channel.
Wow.
And the playlists are designed to show like individuals, like what they're interested in. So I have transhumanism, synthetic spirituality playlists. I have a flat earth playlist, of Mandela Effect playlist, all kinds of different playlists that are their mixtape playlists. And there's a link on the YouTube channel to my website, which is just kind of old, that just has like some basic stuff, that some of the art that I was doing and some of the resources that I've been, researching over the years. That's just subtleinfinity.com.
Okay.
And yeah, that's basically it. That's all I have. I don't have a Facebook anymore.
Oh.
I cut myself off of Facebook in 2014.
Yeah, it can be addictive. Okay.
Yeah, so but I feel a lot better now not having that. So it's been
That's
working
awesome.
out really well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Subtle Infinity, for joining us today. And yeah, it's been great having you on, and continue to keep fighting, and congratulations on all your success over the years, and hope we all have a better, brighter future. And, yeah, for all of us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for reaching out, and I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
No problem. No problem. Thank you for joining us on the Toronto Business Journal. This was Santosh Christoudas with Subtle Infinity. Be sure to, of course, subscribe to our channel and share this video with all your friends and family to pass on this information, this vital information that can be quite life-changing. Take care, and hope you all have a very good day.